Hey everyone, today we're building a music manager in Unreal Engine using FMOD and C++. This system will let you play, skip and loop through tracks seamlessly, and we will be covering everything from setting the project in FMOD, creating the class, creating the blueprint, and basically setting everything up so we can have this music manager in-game. At the end of this tutorial, you will be able to do something like this. So this tutorial assumes that you kind of know your way in FMOD, so we won't be covering that. If you want me to make a separate tutorial about the basics of FMOD and the basics of implementing FMOD in Unreal and having everything working, just let me know. For now, I'll just show you what I have in FMOD. Basically, these are 3 music tracks. This is track number 1, track number 2, and track number 3. These 3 tracks, they all loop infinitely, so we won't be worrying about running out of music. And the idea is to basically have a playlist that cycles between these tracks. It's a playlist that goes from track 1, 2, and 3, and then back to 1 and 2 and 3. Without running into any issues like null pointers or negative numbers that can cause crashes when you work with arrays and these kinds of stuff. First things first, we need to create a class that has all the logic that we're going to use for our music manager. Here in Unreal, go to Tools, New C++ class, and this window will pop out. We're going to choose Actor because we want a music manager that we can interact with. It's going to be an object that is going to live in our game world. Our character is going to be able to touch it and shoot it and hit it and whatever we want in order to switch between different tracks. So we choose Actor, choose Next. We are going to name it Music Manager. Right now, I have already created a music manager, so I'm not going to create it this time, but you can just use this, and we will keep the default path for now. Once we create the class, it's going to open in your selected IDE, either Visual Studio, Writer, or whatever you're using. So this is the music manager that I have. I'm just gonna go through it and explain everything. If you want, you can copy it and see how it works in your own computer and, play with it, experiment, and try to change things here and there. This is a very basic implementation, I gotta say, but I think it covers the basics of playing music in C++. First things first, we have an FMOD audio component. This is what is going to basically play our music. Our music is going to come out from here and from all the logic that the FMOD audio component has. We're using T-object pointers instead of raw pointers because they're basically the new standard when you work with Unreal Engine 5. They're better with garbage collection. It works better with Unreal's reflection system. And also, they solve many issues that raw pointers have that could lead us to crashes, something that we definitely not want. So we use T-object pointer. We're making a pointer to the FMOD audio component and then declare the object, which is the FMOD audio component. I'm also using the forward declaration instead of including the .h UFMOD audio component. We don't really need to load all the logic into the header. We can do that later, and this is definitely more efficient. It's less costly to have just the forward declaration instead of loading everything right in the header. We also have an array of our FMOD events, which are our music tracks. This will allow us to add as much tracks as we need. We can have this array as big as we want. And this is what we will be using as our playlist. I'm using an index, which is the current track index. Each of these tracks will have an index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In C++, arrays start to count from 0, not from 1. So the first index is going to be 0. That's 1. And this is what we're going to use to identify each of the tracks. We have a function to play the track that takes the track index, the one that we have here, as a parameter. See that they are all declared as integers. I think that I could even use uint8 in order to not use that much memory. Depends of how many tracks I'm going to use, but I'm going to stick to integers for now. We'll have a function to play the next track, a function to play the previous track, and we're going to override some of the functionality of the begin play to have more control of what happens as soon as this object exists. Let's get to the CPP file where the magic is happening right now. First things is that I'm including the FMOD audio component header so I can get all the logic for the FMOD audio component. Then I set in the tick to false. Normally we don't need to have the tick activated on things related to music or audio. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But be sure to not having your actors ticking if you don't really need to, because this can be costly and not very memory efficient. In the header, we declared the audio component, but we haven't defined it. We haven't told Unreal what to do with this audio component. So we will create the default class object that is basically an instance of this audio component. We define it like this. We create the default subobject, what type of object, and UFMOD audio component, and we will name it. I'm naming it FMOD audio component. This is how it's gonna show in Unreal in the blueprint. I could just call it, I don't know, music audio component, and it would be just fine. But let's stick to FMOD audio component for consistency. I'm setting the audio activate to false from here, so I don't forget later. And I'm also setting up the attachment. Components are attached to your actors. They allow you to write some logic one time and have multiple different actors share that same logic. For example, if you have an object that can be grabbable, you would just create a grabbable component that contains all the logic of a grabbable and attach that to the different actors that you need, the different grabbable objects. Same with the FMOD audio components. And this is great, especially for sounds that need to move and follow the actors. For example, take something like a car engine, like the VO of a character. If your character or your object is moving, you need the component to move with that character. That doesn't happen all the time. If you play a sound on a location, it will stay on that location unless you give another instruction to the sound. So we are attaching it to the root component. We're also initializing the current track index to 0. Then we are calling a super on the begin place, so we have all the logic from the parent class. I'm asking the actor to play the first track of the index. Music tracks, which is my array, has a method called num that basically lets me access the amount of elements that are into this array. An array, think of it as a list or a group of actors of the same type, of items of the same type. So think of it as a group of variables that you can manipulate in different ways. This method, num, allows me to access how much of these variables I have. So if the number of elements on this array is larger than 0, play track 0, which is the first one. If there are no elements on the array, it won't play anything. It will just return. For the play track function, I'm grabbing the track index, which is the number assigned to each of the tracks as they are added into the array. I'm making a validation if for any reason we don't have a valid track index, we will just return, because if we apply this logic on the track index that doesn't exist, it may crash. It will probably crash, and we definitely don't want that. So I'm setting the event to the FMOD audio component and playing the event. Then we have the function to play the next track. I'm making this validation that if the number of tracks is equal to 0, we will just return. Why? Because this is a video game. You can do whatever you want. So maybe you want in your game that you are able to add and subtract tracks from the playlist depending of what the player does, right? So if by any reason there are no tracks left, we will just return. I'm using this formula. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but it basically allows me to go to the next track and cycle through all the tracks without getting an old pointer. So I'm getting the current track, adding one track. So if I'm in track 1, I'm adding 1, so it will be in track 2. And then use this modulo operator, which basically gives me what is left out of a division. So this allows us to go from track 0 to 1, from 1 to 2, from 2 to 0. That means that the loop starts again. Same thing with the play previous track. We go from track 0 to 2, goes from to the last track, from 1 to 0, and from 2 to 1. I'm gonna put a table of the results of this formula. It's actually pretty simple once you know your operators. So now that we have this, we can compile and see what happens. To create a new blueprint based on the class that we just created, basically a child of this class, we just have to click on an empty space, create blueprint class, and right here you're gonna see this arrow that shows you all the classes that are different from the common classes that you see right now. And we can just type in music manager. Here you're gonna see the classes in order of inheritance. So this is the actor, which is the parent of these classes, as you know, the music manager that we created, and this is a child that I created before, which would be this blueprint that we use here. We don't want to go that deep into the inheritance, so we'll just use this music manager that is our C++ implementation. We're gonna name it Music Manager 2. And if I get into this class, you're gonna see that there's basically nothing much to play with, right? Let's first make our playlist. So let me see, what was the playlist called? Music tracks. So if I go to my blueprint and type music tracks, there we go, music tracks, you're going to see this array where I can add different variables. Which type of variables? It will only allow me to add FMOD events because that's the way I defined my array. This array only accepts FMOD events. So we're going to pick music track 1, music track 2, and music track number 3. Cool. Now, how are we going to interact with these tracks? You can do whatever you want. You can use a box trigger, for example. So, I don't know, if your player goes through a certain portal, the music changes, whatever. I'm gonna keep it simple. And I'm going to, let's say, a button to go to the previous track and a button to go to the next track. So I'm going to get here and add, let's add a sphere just for fun called next track. And this sphere, you can see it here. I can move it this way, and let's add a cube to work as our previous track. And this cube, I can move it this way. So I have a sphere and a cube. We can even, I don't know, change the material. Let's make just make the sphere green because I like green. And the cube, we're gonna make it red. Why not? Yeah, cool. I'm actually colorblind, so if this is not green and this is not red, let me know, okay? So what can we do with this? Let's grab the sphere for the previous track, and we can add an event for this one, which can be this component hit. Let me just previous track, be more specific with it. And let's track cube. There we go. Let's avoid any kind of confusion. This is an event that happens whenever something hits this component. I can have different validations that let me know when something hit it or not, but we will keep it simple. So from here, I can take my previous track function, play previous track, and from the next track cube, we can also have a hit event that calls our next track. Again, these functions, so that's basically it. So right now we can compile, save if we want, and all we gotta do is to drop this into our game world. And let's give it a go. All right, so music is playing from the beginning. If I pick this and shoot this one, I'm going to the previous track, next track, next track, and it cycles again. Oh, come on. So yeah, that's basically it. A pretty simple implementation using FMOD and C++ in Unreal. Let me know if you like it. Let me know if you want to have these tutorials coming. And yeah, any questions, please, in the comment sections. I will be more than happy to reply. Stay happy, stay safe, take care, bye.